Well, today we're back to work on the K24 Cefiro build. Not the happiest day of work of my life, I'll say that much. We've been fighting some issues with this thing. We were fighting some running issues at first. The car would hit a rev limit at like $5,000. Turned out to be just a bug in the software, soft car rev limiter. We fixed that. Then we noticed the RPM signal was wonky. Looking back in the archives, turns out I put the crank trigger wheel on backwards, flipped 180 degrees. So that explained our weird timing offset and yada yada. So I went ahead, tore it all apart, pulled the timing cover off, swapped the crank trigger wheel around, put it all back together, put an ATI damper on, put a new VTC solenoid because our variable cam timing wasn't working either, and everything was fixed. I reset the base timing, got the variable cam timing working. Everything was all good. I did notice the oil pressure was a little low when I first started it. Went on a test drive and it just kept getting lower and lower. I turned around, came home, and by the time I got back, it was idling at about 8 PSI, and even revving, it wouldn't get above 30. So the assumption was the timing cover has this internal oil pressure seal that I didn't replace the first time around. I wanted to, but I didn't because I didn't have it. So when I had the timing cover off this time, I went ahead and replaced it. This is the old one right here. So I was like, maybe it fell off when we were putting the cover on. Took it all back apart, cleaned everything up, re-RTV'd it, made sure the seal stayed in when we put it on, yada yada, put it all back together, and we have just as low of oil pressure as before. It is about 20 PSI cold idle. So then I bypassed the oil cooler because we did see a pressure drop after adding the cooler, which is natural, and it's still low. It's like about 30 cold idle. It'll rev up to about 57. Should not be that low. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. So to investigate further, we got to pull the pan off. Now, naturally, I would just pull the engine out. That's kind of the normal way I like to do things. Just get it out, get it easy to work on, go through it all. But the plan with this car is to enjoy it a little bit, rip on it, fine tune it, pull the engine out, paint the base, ceramic coat the exhaust manifold and the downpipe, and tidy everything up. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet. We just got it running right. All it needs is some refinement in the tune, and we can see what this thing's like. We can really rip on it and, find out if something's going to break even. Find out if we're going to throw a rod out the block. I want to do that first, if I can, before I pull the engine out. So what we're going to do instead, I have a completely different angle kit to go on it. So we're going to pull the front suspension off, and we're going to support the engine from the top and drop the subframe out. That should allow us to pull the pan off from the bottom and get up in there and inspect. The only other theory I have, because it happened after changing the timing cover, is that some RTV, when I was cleaning the RTV off, fell down in there, got sucked up in the strainer. Now I was careful. I put paper towels down to catch anything, but that's about the only other assumption I can come up with that has to do with after we changed the cover, because it was totally fine before that. So yeah, as much as it sucks, it's part of it. It's time to dig in. All right, one side down, one to go. All right, now that we've got all of our old suspension stuff out, everything that's still here can just stay here and is not getting replaced. The plan is to try to drop the subframe with the steering rack attached so we don't have to drain all the power steering fluid. But before we can do that, we need to support the engine from the top so it doesn't fall out. That's kind of crucial. So I picked up this, borrowed it from Raldo and Josue. So this is gonna sit on the strut towers and we're gonna chain to it, and it'll support the engine from the top so we can drop the subframe out from the bottom, because that's what's supporting it right now. Fun stuff, mate. All right, motor mount bolts are undone. Most of the oil pan bolts are undone. I got the ones that are hard to get to that are above the wing. I got those done. a little sketch, I know.
Oh, jeez, please.
Not seeing anything glaringly obvious. Alright, well, we've got nothing clogging up the strainer. There's like one little piece of something right here. And that's it. Obviously nowhere near enough. One little chunk to cause a massive drop in oil pressure. So, man. I mean, I can check the rod bearings. I just don't feel like that's it, considering it was fine before. But, I mean, I'm at a loss, man. I don't know what it is. It was so sudden. You know, maybe the problem was there before and I didn't notice it because I was so focused on everything else. This is odd, man. I've never had one like this. That's for sure. So, I'm going to dig a little deeper, see what I can figure out. So, this was a brand new oil pump, OEM Honda unit. Alright, I went ahead and put this back together. I inspected everything very thoroughly. Nothing glaringly obvious. I re-Loctited these bolts. You know, maybe these were just loose enough to where it was just sucking in. But this is going to be below the oil level anyway. So I wouldn't think it would even suck air in. You know, even if the seal was busted. Weird. It's really weird. So since this all looks fine, everything seems to be fine. Next step is going to be to go ahead and pull the rod caps off. Take a gander. Oh, that's freaking beautiful. That's like probably the nicest rod bearing I've ever seen. Can you see that? She's a mint unit. That one's freaking mint. I mean, these look literally brand new still. Like, perfect. Perfect. Obviously, we gotta torque those down, but I'll go ahead and torque those down. I'll spin it over, check the end ones, just to be 100% sure. But I have a feeling we're gonna find that they're all good. Which means we don't have a mechanical loss of oil pressure, if that makes any sense. We don't have, if that's the case, we don't have rod bearings failing, causing a loss in oil pressure. It's something with the oil pressurizing system, something with the oil pump. It's gotta be, if all these are good. Alright, there are a couple little pinholes in the welds on this pickup tube, but my thing is, it's submersed in oil anyway, so I don't think it really matters, but I'm going to just throw a tiny bit of weld on those little pinholes. Just to cover all my bases before I slap this thing back together and hope it works even though I didn't really do anything. Alright, couple quick ones. I don't know, guys. Talk to people I know. That's the one thing that sucks about learning more and more about cars and having more and more experience. You get to a point where if you're dumbfounded, most likely everyone else is going to be too, that you could ask for help. Not this saying there's not someone out there who knows the answer, but a lot of times you just kind of go through the same things you've already checked. So, weird. Rod bearings are perfect. Nothing nasty in the oil. Nothing stuck in the pickup screen. A couple pinholes, but they're submersed in oil. I was really hoping I'd open this and find that, you know, I did a terrible RTV job and it was just all, the strainer was caked, but it wasn't. Check it out and check the pressure relief valve. All right, well, I went ahead and kind of slammed it back together. Anyway, I might pull the valve cover off tomorrow and just kind of look around in there. I really don't want to pull the timing cover back off again. I'd like to avoid that. I don't know. We'll tinker with it in the morning. It's obviously very dark. This is just driving me nuts. Every corner, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna find the issue for sure this time. Nope. We'll figure it out though. I mean, we'll figure it out. Hopefully we figure it out before we hurt the engine, because those rod bearings were primo. This thing's back up in the air. We let it cure overnight. I would like to give it a little more time to cure, but I want to find out if it's fixed or not. I'm not going to worry about bolting the suspension on just yet. I want to go ahead and put some oil in it yet again. Try to start it yet again. I got to save the oil this time though. I meant to last time. I totally forgot. I just drained it into the freaking drain pan. It's gonna be a moment of truth here shortly. So I'm gonna get this thing bolted back up, get the cradle off the top, and try to start it, see what happens. Oh, I've gone through 7 plus 5, so freaking 12 quarts of oil, 2.5 jugs wasted. Alright, I primed the system. PSI now on idle. That just doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. I don't want to celebrate just yet. We may have found it. So the timing chain tensioner, hold on, let me mute that. Timing chain tensioner, it sits flush against the block and oil pressure goes into it. Now, if that's loose, the oil will just bleed past it and into it. One bolt was incredibly loose, not even hand tight. The other bolt was loose, so they must have backed out over time. So I tightened them down. I'm gonna put that cover back on and we're gonna start it up and see if we're good. One annoying thing, the dipstick tube got caught between the pan. When I put the pan on, it was kind of a struggle to get that thing on by myself over those lines without getting RTV, but I don't even care. If I have to unbolt it a little bit and pull that thing out, that's okay if the oil pressure is fixed. I don't get why it happened after the timing cover. I mean, I did touch the tensioner, like just touch it. Who knows? Again, not gonna get my hopes up just yet. We're gonna re-silicone this and fire the old girl up. See if we have a victory here. I'm getting my hopes up. I'm gonna put the work in. We're gonna see. All right, moment of truth. It feels good to figure out an issue, man. Oh, let's check it over here. Let's check it in the old spot. This spot's coming off the block where the factory oil pressure sensor is. So I remember I bypassed the oil cooler. The oil cooler does cause some pressure drop. Yeah, dude. Good. It was 30 before. All right. So that's all it was. That was a lot of work for something relatively simple, but that's how it goes sometimes, man. That's how it goes. You know, it is what it is. It was unrelated, and this, I knew it's easy to focus. Like when you just did something and you put it all back together, and then there's a problem, it feels like it has to be associated with what you just did, but it's not always the case. Once we got through the pan, I realized that wasn't the case, most likely. So anyway, wow. Okay, well that's all it was. So I gotta fix this dipstick tube before I put the suspension on, though. It's stuck somewhere. I gotta get under there and see if it's caught on like the flange of the pan or what, but it is stucker than Chuck. So, but we got oil pressure. We're good. The old girl is good now. All right, well, I took it all back apart again to pull the pan back off. I was hoping I could fix it without pulling the pan off, but it was stuck inside. So I had to pull the pan back off, get the dipstick tube out, put it all back together. If I don't have to RTV anything for a while, I will be very happy. I'm very tired of RTVing stuff. So, next up is suspension. Let me show you what I got for angle. Decided to go with a destroy or die setup. So I have their entire setup on my Miata, like literally pretty much every suspension arm. Front upper, front lower arm, front drop knuckle, rear upper arms, and their stuff has been so stout. In 3 years of running their stuff, competing, thrashing the car, wrecks, dirt drops, we only had to replace one thing, which is the front upper arm. And I think it was a freak thing where the wheel hit it. Moral of the story is, stuff is stout, and I love the way it drives, so I was like, why not go with the same stuff on this car? So I got just the knuckles and the lower control arm, so it's a custom-built drop knuckle, boxed lower control arms, custom-built boxed lower control arms, so no OEM stuff chopped up. But they also have a subframe. I think the whole kit with the subframe is like $1,000. Don't quote me on that. It was a while ago when I got the stuff. But hold on, let me lift this up, show you. Play elevator music in your head, because last time I played it, I got copyrighted. So I relocated my rack, which means I pushed the rack forward. That helps with over centering. With a rear steer setup like this, when you get past a certain steering point, the tie rod passes center, and then it'll bind up. It'll have a hard time coming back, so you'll bind up at lock. So I moved mine about 25 mil forward, but that was as far as I could go with my oil pan. This K-Series is a tall engine, so it has to sit super low in here. There's not a ton of room. So the Destroy or Die one goes 40 mil and raises the rack up to help with bump steer and your tie rod angle and all of that stuff. So super sick setup. I wasn't sure it would work with the K-Series. So I didn't get that, but if I could have, I would have, because modifying the rack, I fabricate, and it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. So anyway, I'm jibber-jabbering. This stuff looks really solid. I'll leave a link to it below. I love the Destroy or Die stuff. It's just so stout and well built. No tubular BS and Heim joints everywhere. Like, just stout stuff that drives well. So I'm real excited to get this kit on the car. We've got fresh OEM hubs. I put some new ball joints in here. I put some energy suspension bushings, except this one just does not want to stay in no matter how many times I push it in. So we're about ready to throw it on the car and get the front suspension button back up so we can drop this thing on the ground again, finally. All right, well, already a bit of a dilemma here. This angle kit's designed to use all S14, S15 stuff. I have all basically S13 stuff. So I got OEM wheel bearings. I ordered different ball joints, different bushings, but the spindle nut's different too. So I don't have spindle nuts. I gotta track some down. All right, well, that's one side mostly together. Like I said, we still gotta throw the wheel bearing on, the spindle nut, then we can put the rotor on and the caliper on, which is obviously easy enough. Looking snazzy. We are probably gonna have to raise the car up because these are drop knuckles. So we'll probably have to lift her up a good inch or two, but we'll see. All right, well, since we are waiting to get those spindle nuts tomorrow, there's not a whole lot more we can do on the car right this second. So we're gonna knock out a little shop project I've been meaning to do, and that is cleaning the rust that has already formed on my metal welding table here and protecting it. You need to do this for a while. So to protect it, we have a product from today's video sponsor, the Blaster Corp. They are the originators of PB Blaster. If you're unfamiliar with PB Blaster and you work on cars, you are missing out, man. I will not even look at a corroded bolt without spraying some PB on it. Most of you can attest to how amazing this stuff is. And they recently added their Pro Straw system, which this is so good. So the straw's attached to the can, which is awesome, number one, because I always lose those little tiny straws that are taped to the can. But my favorite part is the flow control. So you have this adjustment at the back. You can set it down low and then spray just enough to get in where you need it. So you don't have to make a mess. Once you've used it, you're like, how did I live without having the ability to turn the flow up and down? So that's been an awesome addition to their good old PB. Everyone should have a can of this stuff. But what we're gonna be using today is a new product from them called Surface Shield. So this is a rust protectant. So we can spray this on our table and it'll protect it from rusting in this hot and humid Florida weather. Things rust very fast here, especially bare metal. I mean, this table is inside and just the humidity alone, you can see how rusty it is. So we're gonna get it all cleaned up nice and shiny, and we got the perfect thing to protect it. This is gonna take a while. I'm gonna switch to the quarter grinder so I don't wear this thing out. I already see how much rust is in there. Man, that's honestly pretty wild. That is a drastic difference. All right, well, I went ahead and wiped off the excess just because this is a work surface. I did leave the excess on the legs because, you know, this is not a work surface, but man, you can still see the sheen. It feels so smooth. I'm really excited to have this done. Again, this has been on the agenda for quite a while. Now we don't have to worry about this thing rusting. So huge thank you to the Blaster Corp for sponsoring this video. They are such an awesome company to work with on so many levels, and it's products I've literally used my entire life working on cars. So it's just great. I couldn't ask for a better video sponsor. So that being said, that pretty much wraps us up on the table. Should have the spindle nuts in the morning. We can put the front suspension back together. Once that's back together, we can get the car on the ground, oil, drive. Hopefully we still have oil pressure. So we've got some more to do. But for now, we are waiting on parts. All right, rice and beans parts came through with the save. We got axle nuts. Gotta love having a 240 part seller as your good friends. Makes life a whole lot easier. I would have been screwed otherwise, but they had them. Perfect. So, get our fresh Nissan OEM. I'm gonna say that probably 5 more times. Wheel bearings thrown on and put this thing the rest of the way back together. And you think about how long it lasted OEM. Ta-da! Yeah. All right, got the front all aligned. That all locked in. We got our new boots in. Got those clamped. Everything is about done. Suspension-wise, I do need to raise the car up some as suspected. The drop knuckles did bring it down quite a bit. We're like tucking tire in the fender. So just maybe like a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. And then we have one more project I want to do before we fill this thing up with oil. And that is I want to try switching from my dual pass oil cooler to a single pass and see if we have a little less pressure drop to kind of get the pressures somewhere where I'm happier with them as far as like hot oil pressure. So I'm gonna try to do that because we have a pretty elaborate oil system right now. So I'm gonna try to do that as well. line install. I'm going to put my new filter back on it. When I was diagnosing the oil stuff originally, I put the old filter back on. Put the new filter back on. Fill it with oil, prime the system, yada yada. Let's hope it is the last time until we need an oil change. Alright, got it primed up to 20. Put the fuel pump back up. 62! We got 60 cold idle, which is only 7 or 8 less than no oil cooler at all. And obviously that's fixed. Alright, one thing left to do before we set this thing on the ground and go drive it. And that is see how much angle we have with the new angle kit. So caught up in everything else, I almost forgot. We might hit the bumper with the wheels droop, but we'll try it. Oh no, we clear. Holy cow! Yeah, that's about as much as we're ever gonna need. I don't see us ever needing any more than that. That's about what the Miata has, and it is plenty. If I'm at full walk, I'm pretty much parking it. All right, I'm gonna quit dilly-dallying and putting off driving this thing. We're gonna go just do a little cruise on it, see if we can't get the fueling right. Richen her up a little bit, maybe get into some boost. We gotta see if the wastegate's gonna work or if it's just gonna overboost. There's some things that we gotta set up and do, and I just wanna drive it. Because I only did like 2 quarter throttle pulls where it ref passed $5 grand because we immediately found the issue with the crank trigger, which we then went to fix, which then led us into the oil pressure problem, and we're finally at the end of all that. So hopefully I can finally get after it a little bit with this thing. So, like I said, dude, I'm procrastinating on this one hard. Just so nervous something else is gonna go wrong. All right, let's go drive it. All right, let's hope this drive's a little more successful than the last one. Like this spoke of the steering wheel is directly blocking the wideband. It's hard enough to try to rip on a car and watch the wideband. Kind of a seat of the pants tuning experience, you know. I like to so we're at 30 something hot oil pressure now instead of 20. As soon as you get any RPM, it's 60 something. it sounds bad, but it is a whole heck of a lot better than it was the first time we drove this thing. Oil pressure is good. We're at 35 at hot idle. Oh, it's like a real car! 84 degrees air temp. I haven't even ducted really to that intercooler, like out of the hood, the V-mount, it's fine. Yeah, so 34, 35 hot idle. It's definitely hot, like temperature, because it's gone up to fan on temp a bunch. All right, well, the weather has taken a turn, so I guess I'm gonna call it not push my luck. Thing is running better than ever. Smoother, less vibration, running clean, no breakup, no 5,000 RPM cut, making boost. I'm a little afraid to really rip on it right now, but I'm gonna try to tinker with the tune myself and see what I can figure out. You know, I know a bit. I've never done it. I've always, had someone else tune stuff for me. So it's something I really want to learn. So I think later this week we'll mess with that some more. Try to start really ripping on this thing. But I'm just glad we got that oil pressure issue figured out. Of course, it was something super silly. Just timing chain tensioner bolts got a little loose. Something so silly. It usually is. But yeah. Whew. Got all the running issues sorted, got that sorted, oil pressure sorted. A good way to end the video. So again, we'll mess with this thing more later this week, but we're coming up on the end of this thing, so we're gonna have to start diving into the new projects we got planned. So anyway, I'm gonna quit jibber jabbering. I'm gonna let you guys go, let you get to whatever it is you gotta do. But for now, that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. Goodbye. I swear I couldn't write this script. Now my white band's reading all over the place. I don't understand. Why? I was like, I shouldn't have to put it back on the lift. I moved the ramps because I like to leave the front one so I know I can just go right back on. I don't have to line it up. I'm gonna let you guys